On this week's Gridiron Report, we have some breaking Lions roster news, the Detroit Red Wings at the Olympics, and the Pistons taking on Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs. And it's all brought to you by Pins and Aces, our favorite spot for all your golf apparel needs. Use promo code GRIT for 21% off at checkout. Any product at pinsandaces.com. Let's get into it.
In the heart of the city where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim. From the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the grit iron report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire. Grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thundering loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports podcast presented by Mic Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, February 25th, and we actually have some breaking Lions news, so let's start there. We had a full show planned, and then as it always happens, stuff falls in our lap. We're obviously a Lions First podcast, so we have to break down the news that Taylor Decker is officially returning. He posted on his Instagram that he will be back for his season. So let's real quick, before we jump into the Red Wings and the Olympics and the Pistons taking on Wemby and the Spurs, let's go over our thoughts on the Taylor Decker returning news. Do we like it? Do we not like it? How does this affect our draft stock? Obviously, the free agency life cycle is supposed to start, I believe, middle of March, beginning of March. So a few more weeks to figure out a few different things. But Taylor Decker back on this Lions roster for at least next year. What are your immediate thoughts? We can break down the numbers here in a second, but immediate thoughts having Taylor Decker back on this offensive line?
Yeah, my immediate reaction when I saw it was like, ah, man, like did we want this guy back? He was, regressed quite a bit. He had injuries last season. I wasn't super thrilled. And then I took a step back and I'm like, all right, let's think about this a little bit more rationally, not like some dumb fan, even though I am a dumb fan. So I'm going to do that from time to time. Or often, but I thought about it a little bit more, and I think this is going to be a good thing for the Lions. Really, I just think because just from a continuity standpoint and looking at the market for free agents and left tackles, like left tackles don't just grow on trees. It's arguably the most important position on your offensive line, protecting that blind side for Jared Goff, and so I think we'd be a little bit naive to say like, oh, you know what, we can fill any, if Taylor Decker leaves, we'll fill that hole in free agency super easily, or we'll fill it throughout the draft super easily. I think if you are plug and playing a rookie left tackle, you're going to struggle. And that's if like you have a top 10 pick, and that's not quite the Lions case. So I think I want to spin this into something positive for the Lions. I do think that it is going to be positive. At least one more year of Decker, hopefully a year where he is more healthy. He missed 3 games last year, so it's not horrible, but yeah, he was battling that shoulder injury. Seemed like it lingered. Fingers crossed that he's healthier and maybe he can take one last step forward for at least one more season. And then maybe we do go and, try to draft a left tackle first round or second round. He doesn't have to start right away. You still have Decker for one more season. So I'm trying to spin it positively, but I will say my knee-jerk reaction was like, shit, I don't quite know.
I'm right there with you, and it probably is because we are dumb fans, and like we saw the product that was last year and the struggles the offensive line had. So like I agree wholeheartedly that part of me was like, man, I just wanted to kind of cut that season loose, move on from Taylor Decker, open up that cap space, and the other part of me was saying like, let's just completely start over, let Graham Glasgow retire, free up that cap space, and kind of just reset everything, building around Panay, and maybe if you feel Christian Mahogany, maybe have him battle it out there, but like kind of just restart. On the same side of that coin, though, that also means, like you said, we would absolutely have to go out and make some additions via the free agency market, because you're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to just physically fill all those spots via the draft. B, you're not going to be able to fill all those spots successfully and having a great offensive line through the draft. So like you need to do it all through free agency. And we just know, Brad Holmes doesn't do very much. Like he never goes big game hunting in the free agency. So that doesn't really align with how he does it. And then also like might not have the money. Who knows, everyone wants to play here. So I agree completely with you that like I wanted to kind of just start completely over, but the smart way to look at this is absolutely like this is definitely going to be a good thing. Like just having Taylor Decker back, it's got to be a good thing. Looking at the available free agent tackles, Taylor Decker is probably just pure talent in knowing the scheme, better than anyone we probably would have gotten in the free agency. Definitely better than anyone we realistically would have gotten. Just looking at some of his numbers, last year he played 894 offensive snaps, which is 35th out of 89 overall tackles. So like right there in the middle. All these stats across the board, he's kind of right, like just above average in all of these. So he was 35th out of 89 total offensive snaps, 5 penalties, which is 35th out of 89th. So right there in the middle, 2 sacks allowed, which is 21st out of 89. So pretty good there. But let me just going through these: 35th offensive snap play, 34th pass block snap plays, 37th run block snaps played, 31st in penalties, 21st in sacks allowed, 28th in hits allowed, 67th or 62nd in total pressures allowed. So like again, he's like right above where we would get, right above average. The only issue with him is health, and you hit it. Like I'm more than happy to have a healthy Taylor Decker back, but you got to be honest with us and be like, are you going to hold us captive every single week and like not know if we're going to get Taylor Decker or not know if your backup's going to be starting? And that's where it's really going to handicap us going into next year. So if he's able to take this offseason and be like, look, I got one more run in me, I'm going to put everything I got into my health and just take every day off and be able to be 100% healthy or even 90% healthy, this is definitely a good thing. But that's a big if. And the last thing, without going on for too long, like you said, you mentioned the draft. I think we had so many holes in this team. We need to definitely look at other positions on the offensive line. You got to look at edge players. You got to probably look at secondary. Depending on what we do with Alex Anzalone, you probably have to look at linebacker a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe if Derek Barnes. But this absolutely at least brings the tackle position at a little bit less of a priority, just because, like you said, you got Taylor Decker. Maybe you can get a guy a tackle in the second round and let him learn a year under Taylor, and then you can focus your first round draft pick on an edge player or a guard, or you need to replace Glasgow at center. So at the very least, it kind of, you definitely still need to replace him, but it puts that down on the priority list. You can kind of pick other positions to be more concerned with during this offseason. So dumb thought, I'm with you. I wish we kind of could have just started over, but the smart play is to be happy about having him back.
Yeah, like you said, it buys us another year. That's never a bad thing, especially for a position as important as left tackle. You broke down his numbers. I'm really glad you did. I'm just looking at his numbers right now because it's funny. The eye test for me, again, as a fan watching every game, was that, Taylor Decker, he's getting cooked left and right. I swear it happened time and time again. Yeah. But the numbers say otherwise. The numbers are significantly better than I thought they would be when this news broke, and I actually took a deeper dive into them. In 551 pass blocking snaps, he allowed just 2 sacks. 2 sacks and 3 quarterback hits in 551 pass blocking snaps. So that's stellar. That's still among the best in the entire league in that department. Granted, you did mention his total pressures, 33 total pressures. I think that's a lot of where the eye test is coming from. Those pressures, that is a lot. When you break it on a game-to-game basis, that's only 2 to 3 pressures a game. But 2 to 3 pressures a game is substantial, especially from your left tackle. So I will say that is something where you certainly don't want him to regress anymore in that department. But as far as sacks and QB hits, he's still right up there with the best of them. And that was with battling that shoulder injury that. Right. He was a warrior, and we love Taylor Decker, and he seems like he always has something. In the NFL, everyone's always got something, but especially your offensive line always banged up. That shoulder injury, I mean, I can only imagine like having a bum shoulder, and then like you're using your arms every single play, every single snap, run block, pass block, you name it. So yeah, that's definitely a difficult injury, and hopefully, like you said, he's rested up better than ever, and coming back for at least one last ride. I don't want to say like, oh, this is your last season, Taylor Decker, but like, if it's looking like that, one last ride, having a left tackle. So the more we're talking about it, like I am excited, and that's definitely not where I was when the news broke. So I'm glad we're kind of getting there.
And 100%, the bottom line is the only way this can go south, because you broke down the numbers, he still is incredibly talented. He's 6'7", 320. Like, he's a monster of a human. Just standing there will help. It only will come back to bite us in the ass if each and every week he's holding us hostage with, like, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Is he healthy? Is he not healthy? The backups don't know if they're playing. They don't know if they're sitting. So, like, the only way it's going to be a hindrance is if he's up and down like he was last year. And he's 31 years old right now. That very well could be the case. But, this definitely just kind of, at the very least, allows us to look elsewhere in priority for helping the major holes that we have in this roster. So, again, We didn't have any Lions stuff planned for this episode. The Taylor Decker news drops. We had to touch on it. There's going to be a lot more Lions news over the next few weeks with the free agency season beginning. There's a lot of different guys that could be floated around, a lot of different holes that we need to fill. Maybe tackle's not one of them now, but I digress. We'll break down a lot more Lions stuff over the next few weeks as we get more into the offseason. So, but what we do have is we have some Olympic hockey and some Detroit Red Wings presenting on the U.S. hockey team, putting together not just U.S. team, but across a few different other teams. Before we get into that, though, you got a word from one of our sponsors leading into us here?
Let's do it. Before we get to this Olympic hockey segment, this Red Wing segment, this segment is brought to you by Good Feels Cannabis Seltzer. The Cannabis Seltzer from Good Feels offers a new era of refreshment. Dry January, way in the past. We're almost in March now. We're almost in March Madness. It's going to be beautiful, but if you ever were looking for an alternative to those pops on a Saturday, really any day of the week, maybe weekdays are better for Good Feels. But Good Feels has you covered. Crafted with high quality natural ingredients, these beverages provide a consistent, enjoyable, uplifting experience, perfect for any occasion, weekend or weeknight. And the best part, our listeners can enjoy an exclusive discount with promo code GRIT. That's promo code GRIT for 20% off any product at shop.getgoodfeels.com. Yeah, Olympic hockey, man. I just want to start by saying that, that game against Canada for the gold medal, it was the best hockey game I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was, yes, we watched, the Red Wings win multiple Stanley Cups in our lifetime, but it was a while ago. That's, we're in the early 2000s when that happened. Now we're sitting at 2026. I can confidently say, like, for one game, that was the best game that I have ever watched, and it was so incredible for so many different reasons. But I just want to, before we dive into Dylan Larkin and how incredible he was during this Olympic run, I just wanted to say, just as a whole, Team USA winning their first gold since the 1980 Miracle on Ice. To the day, 46 years to the day, February, I think it was 22nd when the game was played on Sunday, to win gold. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. It was so electric.
It was, like you said, it was an insane game. You thought, like, just my overall thoughts on the game without getting into any of our guys first beforehand. We came out swinging. U.S. came out swinging. I thought we looked good. We looked hot. And then it really kind of, I don't know if it was because we actually ended up scoring first, that I feel like the USA kind of took their foot off the gas. I mean, Canada had a lot of great opportunities, and if it wasn't for, the goalie, Connor Hellenbuck, for standing on his head, we would have been in a lot of trouble. So it was kind of like the first period, he came out swinging, and then it was a lot of nail biting and kind of just holding your breath each time there's an opportunity. But I agree with you. It was an insane game. I'm so happy. I love the just absolute victory tour that the team has been going on. I feel like every single morning I wake up on Instagram and there's just, whether they're still in Italy or now they're in Miami, and I think tomorrow they're headed to the State of the Union. They're just like doing all these victory laps. And then you see the Canadian teams and Canadian players. I think, was it Connor McDavid said something about I think it was Nate McKinnon said something about you guys decide who was the better team out there. Like, don't let the medals decide. You guys decide. And it's like, dude, shut up. Like, USA for the win.
Oh, dude, yeah, Nate McKinnon, scoreboard, bitch.
I just kind of break down the game real quick. USA ended up obviously winning 2-1. Got on the board first with an absolute beauty goal by Matt Boldy. Just such an insane. Tipped it to himself, cut through the defense, and then scored it. Team Canada ended up obviously tying it up there in the second period and then taking it to overtime. Jack Hughes with the just absolute insane snipe after getting his teeth knocked out in the first period from a high stick, absolutely all bloody, and giving just an all-timer post-game interview. I mean, everything about it. It was USA through and through. It was an insane game. I'm so happy. Breaking down some of our guys, though, and so obviously we have the championship game, but overall, what'd you think of, and we'll start with Larkin, we'll briefly touch on guys like Mo and Lucas Raymond. Overall, not just a championship game, thoughts on Dylan Larkin, what he provided for this U.S. team, performance-wise, mentorship, anything like that. What do you think about Larkin's performance this USA Hockey Olympic?
Yeah, Dylan Larkin was everything to this team and more. While guys like Jack Hughes and Connor Hellebuck, like rightfully so, they're grabbing all the headlines. They were the heroes of the gold medal game. But Dylan Larkin was very much, the straw that stirred the drink, the engine of this team. His tournament was really incredible, in my opinion. Like, I mean, he had three game point streak in the knockout round, including scoring the first goals against Sweden, the first goal to, set the tone against Sweden. He also scored the first goal against Slovakia, which, that was a bit more of a blowout there. It was never particularly close, but, that Sweden game was extremely close. It was a nail biter right to the end, right until overtime. So, yeah, I mean, to net both goals in the knockout games was really incredible. I thought Larkin was awesome, and he was doing exactly what the coach Mike Sullivan was asking him to do. Obviously on the Red Wings, he is our number one guy. He is number one power play on the first line. I mean, he's our captain, for God's sake. Like, he's everything to the Red Wings. You put him on Team USA, and all of a sudden his role is completely changed. He is now a third liner, and he's actually asked to be on, our PK, our penalty kill, which, it's not necessarily his bread and butter. He's more of an offensive guy. And yet, he stepped into that role beautifully. Team USA, a perfect 17 for 17 on the penalty kill. And a lot of that was Larkin spearheading that on the number one PK. So you love seeing that from your guy. I mean, it's Detroit through and through. Larkin, Michigan kid, Metro Detroit. And, it's all grit. That's putting your pride aside and saying, like, it's okay, I'm a first liner for the Red Wings. I'll be a third liner for Team USA and still help us win gold. So loved that. And then probably the last thing I'll say, face-offs. I mean, Larkin has always been incredible on, in the face-off circle. And that was absolutely the case during the entire Olympics. He actually led the entire tournament in face-offs, nearly 70% face-off win percentage throughout the tournament. And that's just what Larkin does, dude. I mean, time and time again, coming up big on the PK, coming up big defensively with, great back checks, great forechecks as well, and 3 points, 2 goals and an assist on the tournament. Like, that's just a really, really great body of work that, like, you're not necessarily just going to see unless you're, a fan of hockey or a fan of the Red Wings, or, maybe if you're really following along, you can see that. But he's not, he's not getting all the headlines. But at the end of the day, he's doing absolutely everything that the coach is asking of him.
I don't think I could have said that any better, because I was going to point out the face-offs. Obviously, like you said, like, it's just something he's been known to be fantastic for, and doing. And I know so many people, so many talking heads for, U.S. Olympic hockey have been talking about how that just set the tone, and so many opportunities that were created from him winning face-offs. So that was one thing I wanted to point out. But the other thing I want to point out was what you said there at the end was, if you're not a fan of the Red Wings, if you maybe are just a casual hockey fan, which I would consider myself as one of those people, obviously for the Red Wings, but like any other teams, I probably won't know. Yeah, you and I both are very transparent about that on the show, that, we follow the Red Wings, but we don't necessarily follow a whole bunch of the other teams. There's definitely guys on other teams I have never even heard of. So, like, if you're one of those guys and you don't follow the Red Wings, you're us from a different state or a different city. You know the Quinn Hughes, the Jack Hughes, Austin Matthews, the Tkachuk brothers, because they're always getting in fights. So those, and admittedly, those are the guys that are, they're getting the highlight plays. Those are the guys that, they're getting the game-winning goals. You had Jack Hughes with 2 game-winning goals in this tournament. You had Quinn Hughes with 1, Austin Matthews with 1, Brock Nelson with 1 game-winning goal throughout the tournament. So, like, those are the ones that you see. But what I've learned so much from this tournament was that, like, the actual hockey heads, and specifically the players on this team, the way they view Dylan Larkin. I feel like, and I mentioned, this victory lap, this victory tour that this team is going on, and each morning I wake up and go on Instagram and I see that they're partying in some different city at some different club. Every single time, Larkin is the one in the middle of that the celebration. He's the guy that's got Jack Hughes on his shoulders, or whoever it is up on his shoulders. It's the way that they talk about Dylan Larkin. These players, like, who, he's one of the older guys. He's 29 years old. I think the oldest on the team was like Vinny Trocheck, or there's some other guys that are 32. So he's one of the older guys. But just the way that they talk about Dylan, that, like, yeah, he's not the one that's getting all the highlight plays. He's not the ones that that are getting the game-winning goals. Obviously, you just mentioned he had 3 points, so that's nothing to scoff at. But, like, he's not the guy that's going to be on the top 10 for SportsCenter, but he's the guy that feeds all these guys. All these guys, I feel like he was the one player that I heard of the most from all these other guys, like, saying how important he was. Like, oh yeah, Lark's, he keeps us going, he keeps us up, he gives us the speeches and stuff. And Austin Matthews obviously was captain. I heard some different things about the pregame speech that he gave, But what I just learned so much about Larkin is that he's not the top 10 player or the top, Sports Center top 10 guy, but every single person on this team has immense respect and absolutely loves him. And that says so much to set this team up for success. And it really makes me think, like, just before a few weeks ago, we talked real quick. I don't think we went too deep into it, but we talked about Quinn Hughes got traded. He wanted to come to Detroit. And obviously, didn't end up coming through. Eiserman didn't want to give up for, anything for him, especially with him not being re-signed through next year. Mm-hmm. But like after seeing everyone interact with Larkin and talk about him and talk about the Red Wings, it leads me to believe like maybe we do have a chance to sign some of these guys. Maybe these guys do want to come here and play for Larkin or play with Larkin and be a part of this Red Wings, historic organization. So I just love what I learned about him and the way other players view him and how important he was. It just like, it made me so proud as a Detroiter and having him as a Detroiter. And, like you said, a born and raised Detroiter. I mean, that's not even talking about the other Michigan guys that, state of Michigan guys that performed and had insane tournaments. Like, I just learned so much about Larkin throughout this tournament.
Hell yeah, dude. I mean, I it's almost like put a bow on that. I couldn't said it any better myself. Like, as if I couldn't have had any more respect for Larkin and what he's done, what he's been able to do to improve over the years, and the things that he does for the Red Wings. Well, I have even more respect for him. Everything that his teammates say about him on Team USA, everything he was able to do, just putting his pride aside and just being one of the boys and having fun out there. That's what one of my main takeaways is like this. Just this team gels so much, and like really only been together for a couple weeks, but they played in the Four Nations last year as well. But I mean, those guys all look like they're best friends, and they are just having the time of their lives right now. I think that last night, you mentioned it, they were in Miami. I think I saw them at 11 at the club last night. So just well-deserved. Live it up, boys. And Larkin, if you come back a little hungover, maybe for your first game or two, back wearing the winged wheel, like, dude, you earned it, man. And let's go to work from here. But yeah, dude, love Larks to death. And forever will. Now, I already did, obviously, but this just absolutely cemented it. If it even needed to. Just seeing him play for Team USA was so special.
Dude, you mentioned 11. I saw the video. I saw they were obviously down at the strip club in Miami called 11. I saw them at one point. They were all there singing the U.S. national anthem with all the strippers were there with their hand over their heart. Like how they get one of the most famous strip clubs in the entire world to go dead silent and sing the national anthem, strippers and all, is just absolutely insane. But so let's go a little bit out. So we talked about obviously the Team USA. Love it. I've read a few articles about like, moving forward, the next Olympics, who basically is just trying to feed off of this fuel of the Olympics. Like who's going to be locks for the next Olympics, who's going to be kind of fringe guys. And even at his age of 29, Larkin was still in the category of an absolute lock to be on the next Olympic team. Nice. Which I thought was a little interesting. Obviously, he's one of the older guys. I think the oldest, like I said, was maybe 32 years old. So he's up there in age and in 40 years. Obviously, he'll be 33, so he'll be essentially older than anyone on the team this year. But yeah, so he was on the quote-unquote lock for the next Olympic team. Lock can change between now and then. But let's go into just the other two guys we also had playing in the Olympics. You had Mo Seider playing for Germany, and then Lucas Raymond playing for the Swedes. I'll start real quick and just say, like, I think Lucas Raymond led the way for pretty much the entire Sweden team. At one of the youngest guys, so obviously Lucas Raymond just 23 years old, the oldest on their team, all the way down to 36 years old. So quite a big age gap in there. And Lucas Raymond led the way with points for the Sweden team with 9 points. He had in 5 games played, he had 1 goal, 8 assists. He looked absolutely incredible. Everything I'm reading is just that like Lucas Raymond was quite possibly one of the most impressive guys in the entire tournament. Given his age, given the production that he was able to do, what he did for his team, he was insane. Lucas Raymond is, again, I talked about what this kind of opened my eyes to with Larkin and the way the rest of the league sees him. I knew Raymond was great, but this really cemented Lucas Raymond being, one of the true premier young talents in the league.
Dude, Raymond was so awesome. Yeah, I mean, God, I love the kid too, and I'm so glad that he's a Red Wing as well. 8 assists. That had to have led the tournament, right? Maybe McDavid was near there as well, but I'm pretty sure assists and points he was damn near leading the tournament in both categories. So for a 23-year-old to be doing that, basically, he's already like one of Team Sweden's best players, even at his age. Like, oh, it's so special, so incredible, and tough matchup. Sweden, drew the U.S. in the quarterfinals. Pretty tough matchup. It was a great game. It could have gone either way. It went to overtime. So yeah, nothing but good things for Raymond. I mean, that's special. I mean, we're gonna be seeing him in a Team Sweden jersey a lot more in his career. He's probably still got another, at least 2 or 3 Olympics left to go, right? So just at his age. So yeah, that was awesome. Mo I thought played pretty well too. Doesn't obviously, he's a defenseman. He's not going to rack up the stats that someone like Lucas Raymond's going to do as a forward. But I still think he had 2 points. I see 2 assists in 5 games, and his time on ice too. I'm looking at it right now. Second in the entire tournament for time on ice, averaging 26 minutes per game. We see that pretty much every game when he plays for the Red Wings. He's our absolute journeyman, our best defenseman. He's gonna tack up that time on the ice, but I see he's only behind Finland's Miro Heiskanen there. Still Mo. So yeah, I love to see it.
We learned so much. I learned so much about all those guys. I learned about Larkin and the way the league, his teammates, the stars in USC. I learned about Raymond, about how everything when the US played Swedes, like everything that went well for the Swedes, it seemed like all stemmed from Lucas Raymond making a great pass or seeing the ice so well. So I learned that. And then Mo, like you said, Mo is just an absolute workhorse. The takeaway from him is I'm glad you brought up his time on ice because it's absolutely insane. He had 4 games in the tournament with 26 minutes or more played. The only outing that he had below 26 minutes or more played was the 5-1 blowout that they had, that the Germans had over France when they took him out late in the game to rest him because he's an absolute workhorse. Even against Slovakia, when the Germans gave up 6 goals, he still had an even rating. Just showing that, like, even though they gave up 6 goals when he was on the ice, they had an even rating. So that's just it just shows you how steady Eddie he is. And I mean, it's crazy and a little bit unfortunate that like they just ran him into the absolute ground. And now this is one of the most important times for the Red Wings because we always have a losing record in March. But I mean, just Mo is just that's what he does here in Detroit since the day he was brought into to the club. He's just an absolute workhorse. You can put him up there. He's going to take your best assignment, and he's going to put in the time and look good and not need people around him. So those are my takeaways from all those guys. I think the Red Wings had a really, really great tournament across those 3. Kind of wish we had, just selfishly, I wish we had someone like Patrick Kane on the U.S. team just so he could have celebrated with Larkin and stuff. But outside of anyone else who could have been on the team, I think the Red Wings had a pretty good tournament showing from all 3 of our guys.
And no one got injured, so that's obviously 100%. A huge takeaway as well. So yeah, now onwards and upwards now, boys.
Yeah, I mean we broke it down a few weeks ago. Actually, now again, this is quite a while ago. How the Red Wings struggle so tremendously in March. It's no secret that we tend to flame out as the season starts to come down to it. So now's the time to take this, to strike while the iron's hot. Like you said, maybe take a game or 2 as a hangover for Larks, and then move forward, trying to come down the stretch hot. So all right, let's go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to jump into some Detroit Pistons versus Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs matchup. All right, welcome back. So we talked about the Red Wings, we talked about the Lions. Let's jump into some Pistons because we've had a lot going on over the last few weeks. We put another classic beatdown on the New York Knicks. Even without Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren, they are obviously they were still serving their suspension due to the fight that broke out in Charlotte. Jalen Duren is now back in action. Isaiah Stewart, I think, has 1 or 2 more games. We talked about the Pistons' upcoming schedule when we were talking about their suspensions, how the upcoming schedule for them was an absolute gauntlet. You had the Knicks, the Spurs. We play when you're listening to this tonight on Wednesday, we play the Oklahoma City Thunder. We play the Cavs, I believe, after that. Then the Bulls, who are never easy. They're kind of up and down depending on what night you catch them. All that to say, like, this is an absolute gauntlet to go through. And so far, leading up into the Spurs game, we took care of business without Isaiah Stewart, without Jalen Duren against the New York Knicks, put an absolute beatdown on them again. And then the Spurs came to town and gave us what was probably the most unique game of the season so far. And I say unique because I just didn't know what to expect. I've never seen Victor Wembanyama play an actual game. I've never sat down and just randomly watched the Spurs game. I've seen a number of highlights from him and know how special he is and watched the All-Star game, so I saw him play, but the Pistons don't normally play the Spurs, and let alone they usually don't play Victor Wembanyama. So this is such a unique opportunity, and the Pistons fell flat 103 to 114. So real quick, before we get into like the game itself, What were your thoughts on Wemby? Because obviously Wemby's always and forever going to be tied to Detroit, because in that season we obviously had the worst record in the NBA. Going into the NBA draft lottery, when we tanked properly. I want to say this real quick because there's a lot of talk about tanking the NBA and how tanking has got to be eliminated. The Pistons were tanking properly. We were just straight up bad, all good-hearted losing, and we were trying, and we weren't actually purposefully tanking, and we still missed out on Victor Wembanyama. So he's always going to be tied to the Pistons because of what could have been. But what were your thoughts on watching him at LCA against this Detroit team?
Dude, I mean, he's just annoyingly tall and annoyingly good at basketball. Like every time, like I watched a Spurs offensive possession or defensive possession, like any time that he's anywhere remotely close to the ball, he has an incredible gravity. We talk about Cade's gravity when he has the ball and he's, pulling defenders in and then distributing. Wemby really has that almost to the opposite effect, where like when you are in the paint and Wemby's in the paint defending you, you are completely changing how you shoot the ball, how you potentially pass it, how you might not even try to go for a wide open layup because like Wemby is 6-7 feet away from you. Sorry for 6'7" there, but and yet he can close that gap, or he doesn't even need to close the gap. He can just jump, and he's like with his wingspan, like the amount of times where I'm like that absolutely has to be a goaltend, like, and it's not. It's just that he is able to block shots that quite literally no one else on the planet is able to block shots. And so like to my a basketball mind, I'm like, that's impossible. Ergo, that has to be a goaltend, and yet it's not. And it's so infuriating to be the opposing fan of a team who's going up against Wemby. I felt that the entire night, and that was when Wemby he probably went like 2 whole quarters without scoring, and it didn't matter because he can affect the game in so many different ways. His defense is insane. Like, yes, his offense it was also good at times. He was raining threes. When you have a guy who's like 7'4" and raining threes on you, you're like you're just putting your hand up. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do here? Like, you almost just want to quit. But obviously you can't do that. But I mean, Wemby just 21 points, 17 rebounds, and 6 blocks. And I swear he had more than 6 blocks. I swear on like one possession alone, he had like 2 or 3 blocks. So, I mean, he's obviously a big reason that, Cade, who likes to, get down low and, get to the basket. It's a big reason why Cade went like 2 of, what was Cade? Yeah, 5 of 26. And that's a lot because of Wemby and his defense and the Spurs defense in general. So I want to give him the utmost respect and utmost credit, kudos for that game. But as an opposing fan, holy shit, that was just, I don't know if I could do like a whole series against the Spurs. Like, God forbid, we make it, or, God willing, we make it to the finals and the Spurs are on the other side. Like, because a lot of people were saying this could be an NBA Finals preview. Like, KC's great, but Spurs could definitely beat him. The Pistons could be there. And I don't know. I don't like how we match up at all. We'll break it down, but just knee jerk, hated how we matched up.
I think I've never seen anything like that game before. I've never seen any player like Victor Wembanyama. The only time I've seen anything like it was, and this is it's probably insulting to Wemby to compare it to this, but the only time I've ever seen anything like that down and be someone so tall just dominate a game was when Taco Fall played in the NCAA tournament, and it just being the only 7'8", 7'5" a player amongst a bunch of college players, in which like you have to change the entire way you play the game in order to try and score around him. And so it's, you mentioned it, like to a point in the game, I think our physicality caught up to Victor, and he really wasn't scoring. And I texted you that like it's crazy that we were losing and at that point it was only like 5 or so points, but Victor really wasn't scoring whatsoever. Like our physicality really brought down his scoring ability, but that's the scary part, and that he affects every single play just by being out there. On defense, just standing in there, it takes away everything we had going inside the paint. And then on offense, you have to be physical with him. You have to man up with him down low, and that leads to a whole bunch of free, open shots on the perimeter. And that was absolutely our downfall, those two things. So while he ended up obviously scoring and getting his points, like you said, 21 points and 17 rebounds. Like for 3 quarters of that game, he didn't have that many points, and we were doing a good job on him. We just we focused just too much on him, and that allowed the Spurs to, attack us in other ways. Specifically, they went 45% from 3-point range, 18 for 40. It really seemed to start the game that they were insane. Devin Vassell was 7 for 11, in 3-point range. Devin Vassell himself, 7 for 11, hit just as many 3-pointers as our entire team did. We went 7 for 36, 19% from 3-point range. And that's no secret. Like, we know we're not good at shooting threes. We've been yelling at the team to try and do something, at the trade deadline, since the beginning of the season, that we need to do something. And they went out and they got Kevin Huerter, who didn't even check into the game against the Spurs. So, like, that's where it beat us. You had those guys. What scares me, and we've gotten to know the Knicks a lot over this past year, because we played them 3 or 4 times now, completed the season sweep on them. This Spurs team scares me way, way more. I mean, this team has beaten the Thunder a few times. I think they lost at least once, but they've beaten the Thunder at least twice. And it's just because you can focus all your attention on Victor. But this secondary characters around Victor are much, much better than I thought coming into this. So this team scares me a whole bunch. And I think they just don't match up well, especially if we're not going to shoot the ball well. We're in big, big trouble. You look at Tobias Harris, 30 minutes of the night and 4 points. Like, you're just out there getting cardio there, my brother. Like, you can't be doing that. Dude. You can't have one of our better 3-point shooters go 0 for 1 from 3-point range and expect to win a game. It was a brutal one that I don't know about you. I think we were talking about it. I turned it off with like 5 minutes left because I couldn't put up with watching Victor just absolutely dominate our guys for any longer.
He went off in the fourth quarter. He had an incredible fourth quarter. It was a tough watch. Yeah, Tobias Harris just absolutely running cardio. It's a huge reason why we lost. It's not the only reason. I mean, yes, Tobias, we need to be better, especially a team like the Pistons, who does struggle to spread the ball out, space the ball at times, shoot the three, and it's no secret. We've talked about that a ton on this podcast. And to go 7 for 36, you're not going to beat a team that has a guy like Wemby when you're shooting that poorly from 3. The Spurs were totally fine letting us jack up threes, knowing that we can't really get in the paint like we want to because of Victor Wembanyama. So for us, the 3-point disparity, we were never winning that game when you're getting Devin Vassell. He's going 7 for 11. Spurs in general, just, very efficient, 18 for 40 from 3. And then we're over here 7 for 36. Really, the only guy who's shooting at all is Duncan Robinson. And even still, he wasn't super efficient or effective. You're just never winning a game against a team like with the caliber of the Spurs. And then, parlay that with Cade, also cold. And, at times he was forcing it, and he was, getting to the rim, getting decent shots, and just nothing was falling. A lot of it, again, due to Wemby's, presence in the paint there. And just overall, Cade, 5 for 26, his 3-point shooting, not great either. So just in general, like it was absolutely an off day in a game where, you don't have beef stew either to kind of bang down low. But I will say, though, huge bright spot. You mentioned Jalen Duren for his first game back from his 2-game suspension, and yeah, he was a beast, including just an absolute posterization of Wemby, which pretty much will go unnoticed because the Spurs got the best of the Pistons, won the game, beat our asses, and so we probably won't see that again. But yeah, it was still a poster. And it was sweet, man. He had 25 points, 14 rebounds, and he was extremely efficient too, 10 of 13 from the floor. So loved what I saw from Jalen Duren coming back. I mean, if you have a Jalen Duren game like that, and then you shoot even average from 3, and Cade has an average game where he could, maybe he only shoots like 45% from the field, you're probably going to win that game. So I'm absolutely so far from sounding the alarm, but it's a bit, I guess I would say, discouraging to see a team where you knew we have struggled from 3 in the past, and then lo and behold, the huge reason why we lost this game, we couldn't shoot the 3 ball at all. So very discouraging. And then you mentioned it, Kevin Huerter, a guy who you signed, you traded for, and he's a coach's decision again. He hasn't played yet, right? Like, I'm not really sure what's going on with that.
That's going to be 2 whole separate things there, because that's going to be the downfall for this team. And like it's so frustrating because it's not like we're looking at a puzzle and we can't find the missing piece. Everyone knows what the missing piece is, yet every time, and it's not just the Pistons, it's all our teams here. It's the Tigers who are in spring training, and I just looked at in spring training doesn't mean anything, but I looked at the box score, and we had 5 strikeouts in a row from Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, Torkelson. Like, it's the same. We strike out too much in the box. We need contact hitters, and then you look at the Pistons. We know we need 3-point shooting, and then you lose a game like this. It was really disheartening. Just every single drive, every time we got in the paint, the amount of times I saw a guy go up for a layup and literally just airball it straight in the air because Victor was in the area. I've never seen, and granted, we're a little bit too young to see like the prime Shaquille O'Neal, Diesel days of how he dominated a paint defensively. And even for like, Ben Wallace, I feel like I was still a little bit too young to understand and to remember how much he dominated the paint. Obviously much different players, but like people were afraid to go in the paint because they were going to swat everything. I've never seen so many air balls just straight up in the air because they thought they had to go up and above over Wembanyama, and they altered it completely. And even if he like wasn't, they kept saying on the broadcast like, man, that he didn't block that ball, but because he was there, that was an absolute air ball. And so like it's an affected shot that I don't think they can track that stat in any way, but I guarantee 80% of our offense was affected by Victor Wembanyama in a bad way. So yeah, it was really disheartening. I think I agree with you. I think, and I'm trying to like take out of this game and putting it in a seven game series because we obviously don't match up well with them because we're such an in the paint kind of team. We get out in transition. With that being said, I think we can take the first 3 quarters of that game and build upon it. If we're going into a 7 game series against the Spurs and build upon it and be like, okay, our physicality worked with Victor. He was affecting the game in his normal ways, but he wasn't able to score. Let's continue to do that. Let's be physical. Let's break him down. He's 7'4", but he's still, 220 or something. He's still very, very skinny. Let's be physical with him. Let's dictate. Let's decide how he's going to score, and then we just have to do better on defending the perimeter and eliminating the guys around them. And that's obviously a much easier said than done. But at the same time, like spread out across a 7 game series, I think our physicality might match up with them better than we think. And that's just me trying to be a little optimistic. But this was unlike any game I've ever seen. Like, again, we've gotten so used to going up against the Knicks and that being the marquee game and the primetime game because fuck the Knicks and, Jalen Brunson and Cat and everything. This was just a completely different beast that we weren't ready for. And, we're not going to see them again until possibly the playoffs. So if we do come across them,
we actually play them again. We play them again, rematch in San Antonio, March 5th. So that was one thing I wanted to bring up, that we do play them again. And so it could all be forgotten, all be erased if we go into San Antonio, take care of business, which we know we can. We know we like you said, through 3 quarters. We were playing very well, and that was, including a night where Cade is cold and we're not really shooting well, and so we're still in that game. So yeah, I think that, there's definitely a lot of adjustments that can be made, scheming up shooters better, really just hitting your shots. Like a lot of times we were just missing wide open shots. And so, that's why, basketball series are, you have to win 4 out of 7. It's, there's a lot of variance in game to game. And again, this is just, regular season. You're going to lose games. I think we've been pretty spoiled this year where we're winning a ton of games and it's been awesome. But against the league's best, you want to perform better, but it's a learning point too. How many times do we see, Tom Izzo-led teams where, you take an L, it seems like a bad L in like February or early March, but like you build on it and it's a learning experience. So I know JB is going to have the boys ready to go next time we play these guys. Like we said, God willing in the playoffs too, because that's a matchup for the NBA Finals. So yeah, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but that'd be an all-time matchup.
The world would. I mean, I think everyone would be happy to see that. Like that would just be so fun. Would scare the shit out of me. Add in, in a few weeks, Isaiah Stewart. He's obviously no one's going to be able to defend. Isaiah Stewart's a better quote unquote statistical. I believe he's the number 1 rim protector, even over Victor Wembanyama. So he's not going to alter Victor's shots as much as Victor does everyone else, but maybe having him on the court alters other people's shots, and they were able to get downhill. Devin Vassell obviously was able to get downhill. De'Aaron Fox so quick, he's able to get downhill. Maybe having Isaiah Stewart in there kind of limits the other damage that we saw some other players doing. So add in Isaiah Stewart. Maybe that's a different scenario. But the last thing I'll say is, and we talked about this before the game even started, just had to keep reminding ourselves that like the only thing that mattered in that game was health. As long as we came out of that game with no one getting hurt, it was a win for us because it doesn't affect, the 5.5 game lead that we have. I believe, I think it was 5.5 over the Celtics. It didn't matter as long as we got out of that game without anyone getting hurt or suspended. With this team, that's also something we need to be worried about. That's all that really mattered. And that's obviously that ended up happening. So let's be happy that we weren't able, we didn't come down away with any injuries. And we'll look towards OKC tomorrow / tonight whenever you're listening to this podcast.
Yep. Thunder, then Cavs. Magic, Cavs again, then Spurs. Like this is, you mentioned it, but this is definitely a gut check part of the schedule right after the All-Star break. Yep, boys have everything they need. They just gotta go to work. So yeah, I'm super pumped.
Okay, so let's wrap up the show with Grit of the Week. Before we do that, as always, Grit of the Week is brought to you guys by Pins and Aces, pinsandaces.com. They are a Colorado-based golf brand making premium polos, head covers, and gear that perform on the course and everywhere else, in the office, out to dinner, wherever you're going. Pins and Aces has great apparel for you to wear. We're currently in our first fake spring here in Michigan. It's getting up to 45, 50 degrees. Friday's going to be 54 and sunny, I believe. There's going to be some guys out there. You want to be out there with Pins and Aces gear. This is stuff that stands out, like I said, on the course, everywhere else. Made in the USA with quality you can absolutely feel. Our listeners can enjoy an exclusive discount with our promo code GRIT. That's GRIT at pinsandaces.com for 21% off any product. Again, GRIT, GRIT, 21% off any product at pinsandaces.com. Thank you, Pins and Aces, for always sponsoring Grit of the Week. I'm going to let you kick us off for Grit of the Week. I have someone that I don't think you're going to go with, so I'm not too worried about you taking it. I want you to kick us off with Grit of the Week.
I think you know exactly where I'm going. Grit of the Week, D-Boss, Dylan Larkin, 2 goals and an assist in the Olympics, 70% face-off percentage, win percentage, led the tournament, and then penalty kill, which he spearheaded, 17 for 17 for the Olympics for Team USA. Just an incredible masterclass. He is the grit. He's the glue of Team USA. A huge reason why they got to that gold medal game. Huge reason why they won gold. And that's as gritty as it comes, man. So yeah, I'll keep it short and simple. I know we talked about D-Boss a ton on this show already, but one more accolade, Grit of the Week for Dylan Larkin.
Yeah, I mean, I knew you were going to go there. I figured one of us had to go there. We talked about him ad nauseum. I'm going to stick with the on the ice with the hockey team. We had to, obviously, U.S. national champions, or world champions, I should say. I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path here. My Grit of the Week is going to go to Connor Hellenbuck. Now you're going to say to yourself, Tyler, but he's not a Red Wing. He doesn't have anything. He doesn't play here in Detroit. Connor Hellenbuck, one of the many players on the U.S. hockey team that are from the city in the area of Detroit. Connor is from Commerce, Michigan. He joins obviously Dylan Larkin, the Hughes brothers from Detroit, the game-winning goal scorer for the women's team from Michigan. So we had a number of representation. Connor, while he doesn't play for the Red Wings, still a Detroit guy. He put on the best game I've ever seen from a goalie that I've ever seen. He obviously in that Canada game and the championship game, he kept us in the game. Like I said, when we were breaking that game down, we scored first, and then after that, it kind of was heel, foot off the gas, and it was just Connor standing on his absolute head for that game in particular. Looking at the tournament as a whole, just breaking it down for all the goalies as it relates to save percentage. He was second of all goalies in save percentage with a 956, only second behind Logan Thompson, who had a 960. And Logan Thompson, the goalie for the Canadian team, only played in one game. So obviously, yeah, he had a great game. 1 goal allowed. Doesn't really count. Connor played in 5 games. The one game that we didn't play Connor, in which we played Swayman, absolutely got lit up, and then we had to go back to Connor. He was absolutely fantastic. Again, 5 games played, 6 goals allowed total, 131 saves, 130 shots on goal against him. I mean, he was absolutely insane. He kept us in that game tremendously. Like I said, the best performance out of a goalie I think I've ever seen in an NHL yes. hockey game in general. So Connor, not a Detroit player, but from Commerce, Michigan, a Michigan guy through and through. My Grit of the Week.
Shout out Walled Lake Northern. That's where he went to high school. It's just a Metro Detroit kid, man. Not too dissimilar from the rest of us, except he's an absolute legend. He's an icon of the game now. I mean, my only question is, where are they building a statue, and how high is it? Because he build any statue anywhere, he deserves it, man. There is no scenario where we win that game if he doesn't absolutely stand on his head like he did. Some of those saves. The most egregious, most insane saves that I've ever seen. I'm thinking about the one, the goal was, the puck was almost in the net, and just Connor's putting out his stick, and I don't know how the physics even occur to where the puck is deflected and it's a save, but maybe Johnny Gaudreau is up there somewhere just making it happen. But shout out Johnny Gaudreau as well. I know we didn't talk about it, but just an incredible Team USA brotherhood. having his jersey out there too and his kids to celebrate after the victory. But just what a magical run, and it it's all on the back of Connor Hellebuck, MVP of the tournament, MVP of the gold medal game, and Walled Lake Northern's finest, grit of the week.
That freeze frame of the hit Connor kind of on the other side of the crease with the Canadian player right there with the puck and on the stick, just a wide open net. Like I know obviously the picture paints a different, no pun intended, picture than what was happening live, but to see that net be so wide open, and then you hit play on the picture, and a second later Connor swings the stick around like you mentioned, and somehow was able to block that. He was insane. We probably could have also given it to Jack Hughes, the other Detroit kid, with the game winner. The literal grit of getting his teeth knocked out in a game and then scoring the game winner. But we'll stick with Connor and then D-Boss there. So shout out to both them. Shout out to U.S. Hockey, both men and women. They absolutely fantastic. But that's our show. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. You can find both Kyle and I on Twitter at Kyle_Marino and myself at Dutton_Tyler. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram or TikTok at Gridiron Report, or on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1. And then finally, you can watch these full-length episodes on YouTube at Gridiron Report. You can join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail. That phone number is 313-306-7939. We'll play it live on the podcast. We'll give you our thoughts, get involved with the discussion there. And then finally, if you like this episode, please take a moment, rate it 5 stars, leave us a review saying you enjoyed it, follow us on all forms of social media. We really appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, y'all. Let's go USA.
Journey roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retired. Grit Iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thunder and loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow.